This is going to be a fairly quick, I hope, sort of getting started with the software. The home designer chief people ship the software with a bunch of settings that I like to change. And I have a feeling that a lot of people that start using the software just take it for granted that what they see is what they see, and they don't, at least initially, understand that they can change a bunch of these things. So I'm going to go over just some various settings that you might want to change. So the first thing is this grid. I don't really find it useful. And in Pro, and I think Architectural and Suite as well, you can turn it off. Pro has an icon over here in the corner where you can easily turn it on and off. The others you have to do it through preferences. And there's also a snap grid that you can turn on and off. And so if you zoom way in, you'll see the snap grid, and you can turn that on and off as well. And that snap grid, what happens is that if you position things with the snap grid on, things will snap to the snap grid, and a lot of times you don't want that. And so I tend to keep both of these off. When you have an item in the plan and you select it, you get this edit toolbar that's by default located down here at the bottom of the screen. And I don't really understand why it's down there. All your other toolbars are up here at the top. And so you're constantly looking up and down, up and down. You know, if you want to move this, all you have to do is just grab it. You can see that double arrow thing that shows up down there. And you can drag it anywhere you want. You can let it float. You can size it. You know, sometimes this is handy because if you place something and select it, that edit toolbar, you can set it up where it's handy to have. I'm going to draw it back out. You can put it over here on the side. You can put it over here on this side. Although I don't like it way over here, it's too far. I generally keep mine up here at the top. When I'm working full screen, you know, when I'm not making a video where the screen is smaller, I usually keep it up here. The tool palette over here. There's this little icon down here, this thing that you can click, and that opens this little menu. And you've got two views. You've got grid view and list view. List view is the default, where you've got a name that shows over here. And grid view just shows an icon. And what you can do is you can click this fit palette, and that compresses this, and so you don't have as much, you're not using as much space over here. And again, you can close this, you can do other things with it. All these other toolbars up here, speaking of toolbars, you can grab these and move them around. They're not fixed in place. And the program will remember, when you do that, the program will remember where those have been moved to. The default, when you click on something, like this, floor tools, if I click this, it's going to pop up this over here. I'm going to put this back to list view. So you click on floor tools, and then you got to come over here and click on one of these. And you can change that. You can go into preferences, And you can come down here where it says toolbars, and you can, right now it's set to child tool palette, and you can switch that over to drop down. And you can also change the icon size. This is something fairly new. This is only the last version or two. But you can change the size of the icons. And people like me that are old and don't see as good as I used to, that's pretty handy. So I'm going to change this to drop down and show you the difference. So now you can see these icons up here have changed. So now when I click this, I've got everything right here. I no longer, this is still over here, but I no longer need this, because everything, all my roof tools show up right here. The other things, let's see. I think this diamond right here. Let me go back into preferences. Okay. You see edit handle size. I'm going to make this 10 just to show you the difference. Now when I click this, you can see how big these got. That's a little too big, but you can vary those. You can also change the colors. Back in preferences, colors. Right now, handle fill is gray. You know, I'd rather have it some color that's easily recognizable. To me, that just is easier to see. This is called the same wall type edit handle. And so when I grab that, it just pulls the same wall type out. The other thing that's handy is start and end indicators. And I'm going to see if I can, start and end indicators. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to set this back to maybe 6. Now when I click on a wall, you'll see it shows an S right here and an E right here, and that's because I drew this wall starting from this side and going this way. Here I'm drawing these walls in this direction, so the start is here and the end is here. And there's a couple of things, there's a couple of reasons you want to see that. Let me find where my edit toolbar is. When you make adjustments to the wall, you've got start, center, and end. Well, you need to know which is the start and which is the end if you're going to change this. Under structure, wall intersections, through wall at start, through wall at end. Again, you need to know which end is the start and which end is the end to use this. So I generally leave start and end indicators on. When you select this, you can do this. If you select this, you can turn the corners. Now here's another thing. I'm going to delete this cabinet. Here's another thing that just drives me nuts. I don't want to see a roof when I'm laying out a plan, when I'm just starting to draw a plan. I don't want to see a roof get generated. I don't want all these dimensions shown. And so you can turn those off, and I think the simplest way to do it is go over here to Edit, Delete Objects, and I'm going to clear all. And then you can just easily delete stuff. I don't want to see automatic dimensions. That turns them off. I don't want to see manual dimensions. Roof. I don't want to see roof planes. That'll turn that off. and I can delete that. And so that just cleans things up. I've got temporary dimensions turned on. You can turn those off. Again, this is a pro thing. I've got an icon over here that turns temporary dimensions off. So when I move things around, there's no dimensions. You turn temporary dimensions on and you click on something, you're going to get a temporary dimension that's going to show you exactly what you need to know. You can lay out an entire plan just using temporary dimensions. It's really easy to do, and it just keeps everything clutter-free. Then when you want a roof, you can come up here and you can turn auto rebuild roofs on, or you can just build roofs. The other thing is that Chief turns on framing. Automatically, you're going to get framing built. Let's go find the framing overview. I've got a foundation built, which I don't need right now. I've got all this framing built, which I don't need. And so again, you can come over here, edit, delete objects. I'm going to say clear all. I'm going to go down here and just delete all this framing. Say yes, yes, yes. Delete. Delete foundation. When I'm just doing a layout, I don't need all that stuff. I just want to see walls. I want to get my walls where they need to be, and then I can worry about all this other stuff. Let's see. Let's do a full overview. And let's see, under here, there's a couple of things that I see a lot of times are not toggled on. Toggle edge smoothing when idle. I'd always leave that turned on. You can turn on shadows right here. But I would always leave this toggle edge smoothing when idle is on. This camera. Edit active camera. I'm a little slow here because a lot of this I normally use Chief Premiere, and a lot of these icons are different in Premiere. So if you click this edit camera and show shadows is on, I typically uncheck ray casted sun shadows, reflections, and bloom. I make edge smoothing when idle is on, and I turn down this ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is what gives you the dirty corner look. You're not going to see much difference here. If I had a roof on this, let's see if I'll build a roof. And notice how clean and crisp. I'll digress just a minute. The other thing that I don't want is gutters. You know, if I'm going to put gutters on the roof, I'm going to do that at the very end. I don't want to see those while I'm building. So, you know, you can go into build roof, options, turn off gutters. Say OK. And of course you got to build a roof. Build roof planes. Say OK. Now I got rid of the gutters. Now what I'm going to do is go in here and edit this camera. And I'm going to turn on ray casted sun shadows. Bloom. I'm going to turn this all the way up. Reflections. This is kind of how the default is. And we'll say OK. Of course, this one doesn't look too much different. A lot of times, with all those things turned on, you'll get jagged edges along here. This one doesn't look too bad. Let's see, in defaults, camera tools, you can multi-select these things. So full camera, whole control, 4 camera, you can select all of these things and then edit. And you can edit them all at once. So you can turn all this stuff off. You can turn down this. And say OK. I'm going to go inside here. I'm going to go inside. We'll make this a little bigger. And we'll go inside. Now look at these corners. I think they look pretty good, but I'm going to go in here and edit this camera and turn this up to 100 where it's normal. And then you can see that darkness in there. So you can play with that. Just see what it does when you adjust it. Lighting. You go up here and you go to adjust sunlight. The default is use sun angle. So if you have a sun angle in the plan and you want to see accurate sun, shadows and things, you can use this. When I'm just working on a plan, I generally use generic sun and I use sun follows camera. So I'm going to say OK here. And you'll see how this wall right here is dark, and this wall is dark, and this one are lighter. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say sun follows camera. And now when I spin around, it's light everywhere. Delete this roof. So now when I'm working on, it doesn't matter what side I'm working on, it's light. That's not realistic. That's not the way the sun is going to work. But when you're working on the model, that just makes it easier to see things. Now what you can do is, after you get all this stuff set, after you get all your settings the way you want them, and that includes things like cabinets and windows, you can go in here and you can set all these defaults. You can set. And then what you can do is make a new profile plan. And that way every time you open a new plan, you're going to get a plan with all these settings in it. And I've got a create custom templates how-to in the tips and techniques section of the forum. And this video goes over how to do all this stuff. This is probably the second thing that I ever did when I bought Pro several years ago, was to create my own custom template. You can create multiple custom templates. You know, if you do different styles or want to use different windows or whatever, you can set up multiple custom templates. It's all here in this video. So I think Chief ought to default to a bunch of these settings, or at least give you a video like this that explains how to set things up. Because like I said, I look at a lot of plans that are that are just using the default settings, and my feeling is that people don't really think about they can be changed. Ask questions below if you have them.